Rewind, here we go. Bobby, Tim, gonna steal the show. Talking who the end of the world. Adventure tales gonna be unfurled. It's the future, tune in fast. From the present to the past. Doctor saves the universe. Tune your ears, could be worse. Timey, wimey, rewind, blast off. Bobby, Tim, they never cough. Zoom through space, give a call. Dive into it all. Spaceships wheel and fire blaze. Sun expanding, what a craze. Aliens from every place. Mysteries unfold at pace. Tim and Bobby breaking it down. Laughing, talking in the sound. Podcast fuel just like a stream. Join the journey, live the dream. Timey, wimey, rewind, blast off. Bobby, Tim.
Welcome to Timey, Wimey, Rewind, brought to you by Cult Classic Society, a podcast adventure in time and space where we aim to break down every episode of Doctor Who ever. And there's like a thousand episodes of Doctor Who. It's going to take ages. Introducing me, your host, someone so unbelievable that even futuristic technology refuses to acknowledge that I exist, Bobby Davies, and a strange little being that will greet you with bodily fluids, Tim Martini.
I thought you were going to say something about me being thin, so I'm actually kind of glad you went with that one.
Oh, yeah. No, I was comparing you to the Mox of Balhoun, not Cassandra, no.
And it's interesting you say, like, yeah, there's thousands of episodes. The problem with doing an ongoing series is there's always going to be more, so we'll probably never catch up.
What's really funny is obviously we got the Christmas special and then next year and stuff, but there's obviously gaps where we'll start to slowly encroach. But because we release every 2 weeks, we'll get more and more behind as the series goes.
Yeah.
And then we'll start catching up again.
We just have to rely on, like, production breaks.
But there's more downtime than uptime with Doctor Who, so at least we'll slowly catch up.
Yeah.
So I've had this section in my notes that we've not really referred to, whereas anything new that you've discovered about Doctor Who in your last week since we recorded, and there's something I stumbled across in the notes for this episode. It's that, was it this episode? I can't remember. I read it somewhere, Tim. Apparently, Clara Oswald, who is a future companion, her mum was killed during the Autumn invasion featured in Rose.
Oh.
So
well, how did you discover that fact?
Well, that's the thing. I can't even remember. It was somewhere. So from what I said, there's like context clues in the episode where it's just like, she died in 2005. It's like, okay, yeah. And then I think it's in some of the expanded literature where it kind of hints that it was during the Autumn invasion.
Oh, it's probably just in a comic or something.
Yeah. So yeah, we're talking about the end of the world in this episode, and not the actual end of the world, Tim. The episode of Doctor Who that's called The End of the World. Written by Russell T. Davies, directed by Euros Lynn, who I watched the Doctor Who Confidential, looks unfeasibly young to be directing a Doctor Who episode. He looks about 20.
Yeah, and also like he's actually quite a common person within like the Doctor Who space. He's directed so far 12 episodes.
Good for him. That's still less than 1%.
Oh, yeah. Well, if we talk New Who.
If you're talking New Who, it's about 1%, I think. So we got some facts for you. Initial facts. Broadcast on Saturday, the 2nd of April, 2005. Viewing figures of 7.97 million. Down on Rose, but that's to be expected. Still good, though. Still good. That is still a good audience share. Somewhere around the 30% mark, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's always how it goes with a first, like, show, like, premiere episode, whatever. People always want to catch the first one, then, you know, people just decide, oh, maybe I'm not interested in this or whatever, then that's when the viewers drop off. Or, you know, Saturday night, maybe people were busy.
Yes. Well, what's that like, being busy on a Saturday night? I remember that. I vaguely remember that in the past. Now
it's tiring.
Now I'm old. Yeah, you're young. You're still busy on Saturday nights, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the time of record, I'm going to Rome this Saturday night.
Oh, geez. Have fun. As with the episode Rose, this was released on the vanilla DVDs, along with Rose and the Unquiet Dead, which is the next episode we'll be doing. It's in the Series 1 box set. Also released on non-upscale Blu-ray in 2013. And then finally re-released in upscale Blu-ray last year, 2023, which is how I watched it. Yay!
Yay.
Tim, I've got some bad news, and I'm going to have to fix this, I think. After our last recording, and I showed, this is how I watched it, dropped this case, broke the clip.
Oh,
Now only the bottom
no.
clip is working on my Series 1 Blu-ray
Oh.
case. Look at it.
Oh.
But I have other Blu-rays that I care about less, so I'll probably swap it. I used to work for a media outlet, shall we say, and there was just like free DVD, Blu-ray cases that they had as backups. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I would have just taken one if I still worked there.
Yeah, no one will miss him.
Right, I assume you've done an insane, detailed cast breakdown, like a full list of everyone.
Just people, just some people, not like everyone who plays every alien.
So I've essentially got kind of the key 5 people that at least had like speaking parts in this, but apart from the Doctor and Rose, because we've spoken about
Yeah.
Christopher Eccleston and Billy Piper already. So if you want to do yours, then maybe I'll chip in.
We got Simon Day as the steward, Yasmin Bannerman as Jabe, Jimmy V as Moxa Balhoun, Zoe Wanamaker as Cassandra, Becky Amory,
I'd say it's
as,
Armory. Yeah.
as Rafalo, Sarah Stewart as the computer voice, and Salias Carson doing a bunch of alien voices.
Yes. So I've got a bit of a more detailed breakdown about what the other stuff they've been in. Zoe Wanamaker, probably the most famous person on that list, known for Harry Potter. She plays Madame Hooch, but also BBC sitcom My Family that had like 9 series,
Jeez.
along with Robert Lindsay. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, and I've got a little story about the sitcom My Family. There is a lady who lives in the town that I live in, and I used to see her all the time, and I recognised her. I was like, I know you from somewhere. You've definitely been on telly or something. But it took me fucking ages to realise that I cannot remember the character's name, but she was the cousin in My Family who replaced. So there was like a sister character, and then she left, and then she was replaced by like a cousin who moved in, and she was the cousin. I was like, that's where you're from. It genuinely took me like 4 years to realise where I knew her from. You say Simon Day on IMDb, credited as Simon Paisley Day, is the steward. He was a character called General Quinn in Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker. Don't remember the character. I've only watched the film a couple of times.
I try not to remember that one.
It's not as bad as everyone makes out. It's too hard. It's hardcore on the fan service, and people obviously were annoyed that the big bad kind of just got brought back Palpatine. I get that, but like people are saying it's like the trashiest piece of shit ever, and like it's still better than Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Yasmin Bannerman as Jabe, as you say, she does a lot of voice acting still, does podcasts and audio dramas, done some more Doctor Who stuff. She also had a recurring role in Torchwood as a police officer called Swanson, who didn't like the Torchwood gang. So obviously Russell T Davies liked her.
Yeah.
Jimmy V as the Moxa Balhoun. Interestingly, he kind of plays / controls, is in the unit of R2-D2 in The Last Jedi.
Oh, okay.
Only in that one, though. He's the only one he's credited for. So I know.
Yeah, because I think wasn't it Warwick Davis?
But maybe they got a variation of actors. Maybe they, for different shooting locations, had different actors. But he is credited as one of the people playing R2-D2 in The Last Jedi. He's also the Grask in the Doctor Who Music of the Sphere special. Have you ever seen it?
Yes.
So he's the one that's actually Doctor Who at the proms where they're doing all the music. And then there's David Tennant interacting like on the screen with an alien, and he plays the alien. He's also been in Harry Potter, obviously. They have a lot of little people acting in Harry Potter. Becky Armory as Raffaello only had 5 acting credits on IMDb.
Oh.
Stopped, but I was like, oh, maybe she's done. Maybe she's gone into theatre or something. So I just stuck her name into Google, and the first thing that comes up, she's at the top of the page. She now works in theatre management, so good for her.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah, she runs a theatre, so she's still in the biz, just not acting. Tim, what was going on in the real world. Remember who I said was number one in the charts for the episode Rose? And we're talking 4 weeks before this in terms of setting. Because so last time I did the date that the episode was set on, which was early
Yes.
March. This time I did the release date of the episode because they don't really give. Obviously, we can't do the year 5 billion, so
I was
we
gonna
did the
say.
release date of the episode, which was early April. A month later, the same number one. Do you remember who it was?
Go on, mine's drawing a blank.
Fucking Peter Kay and Tony Christie with The Way to Amarillo. Fucking hate Peter Kay. He's not funny. Number one in the cinema at the box office, Frank Miller's Sin City. Feels like one of your
Solid film.
Yeah, feels like one of your ones.
It's a really solid film. Haven't seen the sequel because I've heard too many negative things about it, but it's a nice stylized movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said if you can appreciate the art of the structure of a movie as opposed to the story.
Yeah.
I think you'll probably get something out of the second one. But
Yeah, but I mean, part of Sin City's appeals as it's a noir, so I feel like you need to enjoy the story with it. Like the visuals are like one thing, but
I'm looking forward to they're doing a Spider-Man noir, aren't they?
yes, with Nicolas Cage
And
playing Peter Parker in live action.
I think Nicolas Cage is the worst leading man in Hollywood, but I'm still looking forward to this because it's Spider-Man. I thought it was going to be animated.
No, they decided to go live action for it.
Oh, I'd prefer it to be animated.
So would I, but I'm excited about the concept.
Tim, in the news on the same day this aired, the Pope, JP2, John Paul II, dies at age 84. Yeah. So you have Kennedy being shot during the release of the first episode. Pope dying during this episode. I mean,
Maybe that's why people aren't watching.
Yeah, maybe that's why the viewing figures were down.
They lost the Catholic market that night.
Tim, now we discussed kind of what we were doing in this period of 2005. It's only a month later, really. Anything you want to add? Anything you thought of that you could have been doing around this time? I'm just like dripping more bits of information because we're in the same area and not really leaving it.
Yeah, it was I was in year 5. What was I doing in year 5? Learning basic mathematics.
Fair enough. I was going to say, come on, one memory from that age. You've got one, surely. But all right, I'll leave you to it. Fine. April 2005. I was 17. It was around this time. It may be in a tad before. I quit sixth form because I fucking despised it. Promised that they'd treat you like it was college and not like you were still a kid in the school. Did they? Fuck.
Yeah, I didn't go to a sixth form. I went to a college instead because my secondary school at the 10 years ago was offering a sixth form option, but obviously I wanted to pursue media, and their editing software was a Windows Movie Maker. So I was like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I went to college instead. Much preferred it. Yeah, it was so much better. I actually have one story from my sixth form that kind of proves that how bad they treated you. So we had to wear suits, which was one thing. Like the year about 3 years before us didn't even have to do that. They could wear whatever they wanted. And it was like an icy day, and it's like a half-mile walk from the bus stop to the school.
Jesus.
And it was so icy that I was like, I'm wearing trainers up the road. Like, I'm not wearing like slide on, whatever you'd call them, like suit shoes, posh shoes, because I'll fall on my ass. Get to my locker, I've literally changed one of the shoes, and I'm about to change the other one, and I genuinely had a go at by the head of sixth form for not wearing proper shoes. And I said, it's icy. And she said, I don't care. And she is a cunt.
And there's a one per episode.
All stories in the end. Just make it a good one, eh?
Right, we're going to jump into it. Plot breakdown. Do you want to get us started, Timothy? And then I'll inevitably pull you back and say you missed something.
Sure thing, sure. So the episode starts immediately where Rose left off. Rose has just jumped into the TARDIS, and the doc's like, okay, I'll take you to the future. And basically Rose is just like goading him, going like, oh, you've taken me to the year like 100,000. That's not impressive. And he goes, okay, then I'll show you something impressive, and takes her to the year 5 billion and something. They use
Apple / some
Yeah.
delta / something. Yeah. What's interesting is just before that we get a previously on, which
Yeah.
from this episode on is basically on every episode of Doctor Who, bar a couple of specials. So during the
Yeah.
seasons, there's always this. So I think the Christmas specials and then something like the 50th anniversaries don't have them, but most of them seem to.
Yeah. So they arrive on platform 1. It's a spaceship orbiting the Earth, and the Doctor, in a very twisted way, for Rose's first trip, has decided to show her planet blowing up.
The end of the world. Yeah, so the year that I've got it written down here, the year they call it is 5.5 Apple /26, which is 5 billion years in the future. And Apple clearly own everything now.
Yes, they own time.
Yes. Do you
But
think
yeah,
at this
just
point the interplay between Rose and the Doctor is already quite flirty? And he, like, even if you know he's 900 years old, but he has the appearance of like a 45, 50-year-old man, and she's
I don't
19.
think right now it's. I don't think right now it's flirty. I think it's just more playful. I think it's that kind of thing where, at this point in time, they're not really looking like they're not romantically interested. They're just like they just get along very well, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that's a fair reading of it. So I've got the quote
Uh,
that the doc. Sorry, I'll cut you off for one more time, and then you can carry on. The
sure,
quote
sure.
is "This is the day the sun expands. Welcome to the end of the world." And then like the titles drop, don't they?
Yeah. So yeah, but what was your like thought on this? I think it's very twisted of the Doctor to do this.
I mean, if it was like them just floating in the TARDIS above and going, "Look, this is your world blowing up," I would think that. I think it's less twisted because he takes her to what it's meant to be before it gets fucked—a fancy party, like the great and the
Yeah.
good aliens of like the highest order coming together to pay their respects to kind of a lot of apparently some of their origin is from Earth.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I've never thought of it like that because I think if I met a time traveler and they went, "Do you want to see the world how the world ends in 5 billion years?" I'd be like, "Hell yeah, I do."
I think that would just fuck my existential dread. Like, obviously, I'd be dead by that point anyway. But I think just seeing that happen,
Well, Rose does have an existential crisis at some point, which we'll get to.
yeah.
I
So
love the voiceover, which is like
yeah,
platform 1 forbids the use of weapons, teleportation, and religion, which I think is a
yeah.
really funny quote.
So the steward arrives and he's asking, like, how the hell did Rose and the Doctor get on board? This is when the Doctor uses the psychic paper for the first time and goes, "Oh no, see, I have an invitation. It's me and my +1."
Slightly
And
psychic, saves a lot of time.
yeah, I mean, I think the psychic paper is like one of the best additions to Doctor Who lore.
Yeah, it really like, and all the varieties of ways they use it, but it does explain how they get past things, and it's just another like the sonic screwdriver is such a get out sometimes that having a second get
Yeah,
out kind of spreads the get out.
yeah. Which is funny because like some of the time he just sneaks in anyway when he
Yeah.
could just use the psychic
Well,
paper.
sometimes the psychic paper might not pay off. Torchwood, all their guys are psychically trained.
Oh yeah,
The explanation that the Doctor gives for the Earth looking like it does now, because Rose says, "Shouldn't it have all shifted 5 billion years?" He says, "Oh yeah, it's the planet is now the property of the National Trust, and they shifted it back to look like a classic Earth."
yeah,
Which is really good. And then they're holding back the sun explosion as well, so that's how the world's going to end. The sun is expanding, and it's going to roast it.
yes.
And they've used satellites to hold it back for long enough, and now they've said it's time for it to go.
And just so you're aware, everyone has been evacuated off the Earth. There's no one on there.
Empty Earth.
So this is when the aliens start to be introduced. We have trees. That's not the way the show says that.
Yeah, they're like humanoid
From the
now.
Forest of Keen. Yeah. We have the Moxel Balhoun.
Who is
We have
a short little blue blobby alien.
we have the Face of Bo, who interestingly was based off the navigators from David Lynch's Dune.
I've got that in my notes later. That's meant to be goes in another section, Tim. Come on, we've been doing this 3 episodes now.
I know, but it's Dune. I've got to talk about Dune.
Yeah, I might have written something in the notes about Doom being shit as well.
We have the adherents of the repeated meme.
And then a bunch of other aliens.
There's a bunch of others. But then we have the last human, Lady Cassandra, who's just a large face, like stretched out on a large sheet of skin.
She's
who
a
has to
skin
be
trampoline.
who needs to be consistently moisturized.
They're encouraged to exchange a gift, and the Doctor's got nothing. So it's like, "These is air from my lungs." And Jabe, who is one of the tree life forms, gives a cutting of her grandfather. The Moxa Balhoun gives bodily fluids, much like that's why he's Tim's hero. There's a really funny bit on the Doctor Who Confidential where he's sat on a little like moving platform, isn't he?
Yeah.
And it's just pulled by rope, the wire. And
That's amazing.
There's a little clip of him crashing into the door where they obviously can't. They're not guiding it quite right.
So, and then also the repeaters meme. They provide little orbs to each of the guests, including the steward, who is not a guest.
But they keep repeating, "What is it? A gift of peace in all good faith."
Yeah.
And until the steward takes it, because he's like, "I'm not a guest," and he won't take it. And then I just keep saying it until he takes it. He's like, "Okay, cheers."
It's like, okay, fine.
There's a really good bit where Lady Cassandra she gets like historical artifacts from Earth. There was more she was supposed to have, but she brings out a jukebox and calls it an iPod and says it has music from humanity's greatest composers. And we hear Soft Cell Tainted Love first.
I mean, she's not wrong there.
Yeah. Jabe scans the Doctor and freaks out, saying it's impossible to whatever she scanned. Some of the robots. So, the little orbs that the repeating meme had these spider robots in them. And we get a little clip of them starting to escape where they've been put in people's rooms and stuff. Rose meets Ruffalo, and she's kind of quite a nervous figure. And Rose looks like a nervous teenager meeting her as well.
Yeah.
The scenes with Ruffalo are actually added, much like the scene between Rose and the Doctor in Rose, that chat. Like, they were added to make up an extra minute of time that they needed to do. They're not as good or as kind of, they don't hit like that scene does out of nowhere. But what I like about this is, without this, we don't get a glimpse of the working class.
Yeah.
And I like that touch. Like,
yeah, I mean, when I wrote about this section, I called Rose a working class hero because she's the one who like goes up to Ruffalo, and Ruffalo's like, "You need to give me permission to talk." He's like, "Yeah, talk."
And apparently, even Ruffalo says like most people aren't as kind to give the permission.
And,
yeah, it's just like watching Rose interact with probably what would be the at her ancestors' level of class, and we see that side as opposed to just the rich people. I like it as a touch. Russell T Davies often likes to kind of big up the working class, and
also like it adds a bit of character to Ruffalo, considering what happens to her in the very next scene.
Well, I think just Ruffalo was just added completely, like as to make up the time,
the runtime. Yeah.
Rose has a bit of a moment when she's talking to Ruffalo about not knowing who the Doctor is.
Yeah.
She says, "Oh, I just came with him. I didn't really know who he was." And she has a bit of a crisis of confidence with it. Ruffalo finds one of the spider robots in the air ducts, and she's like, "Who are you? Come here, I just need to register you." And then it kills her. Poor Ruffalo. The steward puts out a message asking for the owner of the blue box to move it, which is really funny.
Yeah.
Rose goes to find somewhere to be alone, needs a moment to herself, so she goes to one of these like smaller viewing rooms, and she's just kind of sitting there looking at the Earth.
Yeah, so she and the Doctor have a bit of an argument because he's like withholding his past from her. And also from the audience, because at this point, like even if you're a Doctor Who fan, you don't really know much about what's been going on in the interim. Like they've been alluding to the Time War, especially in the first episode where he says he don't want to fight in it, but he's still holding onto that angst and that pain. But he kind of neutralize the situation, and this is the first time we see him upgrade one of his companions' mobiles for longer distance signal.
Universal roaming.
Yes,
And
she,
like temporal roaming too.
yeah,
What I find
and
funny is,
Rose called,
there's one of the things they argue about is that the TARDIS gets in your brain and can translate. Because Rose is like, why don't they
yeah,
speak English? She's like, they don't. And Rose finds that to be an invasion, and the Doctor's like, never thought of it like that. It's not the Doctor who talks down the argument; it's Rose.
yeah,
So he's like in a strop looking out the window, and she you see her body language change. She's like, okay, fine, and she kind of comes and starts talking to him in a friendly way. We get a really great quote from him as well. He's like, why does it matter who I am? This is who I am right here, right now, and that's all that counts. And yeah, like you said, he's still sore about the Time War.
yeah. As like who I am, I think it's like clear. Like people who know of the Doctor see him as a Time Lord, and basically the whole Time Lord defines who he is now, kind of thing. Even if they know what hand he played in it.
Yeah, definitely.
So after the Doctor upgrades Rose's phone, she calls Jackie, and she's like Rose is like, wow, it's like she's dead now, but I'm able to call her 5 billion years ago.
So yeah, there's a scene cut out of Rose where you see Jackie answer this phone call, and it doesn't make any sense. Which I think that would be cool if they left that in. Like, there you go. There's that kind of thing we're looking for when we're hunting for Easter eggs and spoilers going forwards. I like the interplay between Rose and the Doctor when they're talking about the upgrade of the phone. So the Doctor says, with a little bit of jiggery pokery, and she says, is that a technical term, jiggery pokery? He says, yeah, I came first in jiggery pokery. What about you? And she says, no, I failed hullabaloo. And it's just like this lovely little silly back and forth that's quite, like you said before, playful. And again, there's that kind of witty or quite silly interplay between two characters.
Yeah.
And I just love it.
No, I feel like, what, as you said, like when you asked earlier, is it romantic? Are they really like quite like flirty with each other? I think no, but like you can see, especially as the episodes go along, it build into that point where you can tell that there's a romantic connection. Because like, I mean, like both relationships are based on the fact that you're friends with the person first, and then it builds and builds, kind of thing. So I feel like they're seeing that like play out quite naturally throughout the season is really good.
Agreed.
So there's a slight disturbance on the ship. Basically, the whole thing just rumbles, and the Doctor immediately notices that that's not supposed to happen. The steward sends out like a little simple, like, everything's fine, don't worry, we're experiencing like space turbulence.
He says it's a gravity pocket. The Doctor's like, that ain't a fucking gravity pocket.
And then the steward's immediately going, what the hell is that? That shouldn't happen. I've worked on so many of these, and this has never happened. And his little orb comes out as a spider and deactivates the solar filter in his room, and the heat of the sun just fries him to a crisp.
Yeah, and everyone can smell the barbecue.
Yeah.
We get a cut here, and there's a pan across the main room where all the aliens still are. And there's a little thing here where you hear the Moxa Balhoun. Did you catch what he says?
No.
He says, inarguably, this is the Bad Wolf scenario.
Ooh.
And we'll talk about Bad Wolf in a little bit. But
so what does that mean at this point? What does that even mean in the context of Bad Wolf, though? You know what I mean?
It's the first drop of it, like the first drop of that phrase.
Yeah.
On the iPlayer, though, it says, I actually went and found it because I was like, they can't do. Because I saw a note somewhere saying, iPlayer has the subtitles wrong for this. And I was like, really? We can have a look. And I found it, and it says, the Bad Boo scenario. So, come on, like, it's the first hint to the long-term storytelling in this series.
And the BBC fucks it up.
Yeah. The Doctor wants to know what happened with the ship, and Jabe says the ducks are all behind her room. He says, do you want to go and have a look? We'll see what's happening. not before asking if Rose is the Doctor's wife or a prostitute. And
Yeah.
Billy obviously goes on, quite famously, in a long-term series to play a prostitute / sex worker, would be the correct
Yeah.
term, although Jabe does call her does say prostitute in Secret Diary of a Call Girl.
Yes. I still haven't watched that, actually.
No, nor have I.
But also, like, there's the interplay between the Doctor and Rose at this point also, like, shows, like, she's not, like, flirty with him because, like, they're very, like, no, not his wife. But then the bit where the Doctor takes Jabe round the arm, like, Rose doesn't look jealous or whatever. In fact, she makes a joke going, I want you home by midnight.
That's true, yeah, that is true. Eccleston actually says in an interview on the Confidential for this episode that he thinks the Doctor and Jabe have a sexual tension from the beginning.
I mean, the moment where the Doctor gives her the air of his lungs, she goes, ooh, intimate.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's how it was played out. So, yeah. And yeah, you're right, Rose doesn't seem jealous at all. In fact, she says, I'm going to go speak to Cassandra, but she goes, I'm going to go speak to Michael Jackson.
Jackson, yeah.
Funny. Hee hee. The Doctor and Jabe discuss Platform 1 and that no one from the corporation who owns Platform 1 is there to oversee it. It's all automated. The Doctor drops his first...
That.
Yeah. The Doctor drops his first use of fantastic, and he explains that he's been on another unsinkable ship once before, a reference back to the last episode. Which is he ended up clinging to an iceberg. From what I remember, actually, that's apparently a reference to a Sixth Doctor, like, book or something, because the Sixth Doctor is the only in any kind of thing to go on the actual Titanic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it might not be. It might just be a passing reference because it's, a time travel joke. But
yeah,
it's all linked up. Cassandra and Rose talk, and Cassandra remembers being a little boy on Earth.
Yeah.
Cassandra explains that humans travelled out, but she says she is the last pure human, and all the others mingled. And says there's proto-humans and semi-humans and whatever. She lists off all these things.
Yeah, they sometimes call themselves human-like.
Humanish. Rose says, I'd rather die than be like you, a bitchy trampoline, which is a hell of a line. Jabe and the Doctor are talking, and she says, my ancestors are actually from the Earth below. She's an ancestor of the rainforests.
Yeah.
She tells the Doctor that the machine scanned her and refused to acknowledge who he really was, but eventually said he's a Time Lord. And she says it's like amazing you even exist, and that she's sorry. I'm assuming she's not the one who wiped them out at this point. But
No, I think at this point, I think it's like, I think no one really knew, like, in the continuity, because, like, even in, like, later seasons, whenever they reference the Time War, it's always the Doctor who has to declare the fact it was me who did it.
Yeah, well, he doesn't. I don't even. I think David Tennant might even be the first. No, maybe it's towards the end of this season. You might be right, but it is funny how some of the more advanced beings, or at least like that far flung in the future, know of the Time Lords and know of the Time War and know they were wiped out.
Well, I think considering it was like with the Daleks were like such a big threat, I think it was that kind of thing where like it was always going to affect like everyone kind of thing, or at least like word of it would spread.
The Doctor and Jay find some massive fans, which they call retro because it's part of the aircon system. The repeated meme, knock Rose out and lock her in one of the small viewing rooms.
Yes.
While they're in the aircon, the Doctor notices a metal spider and Jabe lassos it with some kind of vine she's got hidden, and apparently she's not supposed to tell anyone. It's a bit kinky, so another Cassandra. I don't know. I do like there's like it's kind of a good joke in that obviously to us that means nothing, but the idea that to this other culture,
it's like ooh,
a naughty thing. I like those touches in kind of lore, kind of fleshing it out a bit. Cassandra plays a traditional ballad on her jukebox. What is it, Tim?
Toxic by Britney Spears.
Do.
What annoys me is that they cut out right before the chorus.
Didn't want to pay for it.
Yeah, most likely.
The Doctor finds the dead body of the steward, says it's from the sun filter going down, and then he's like, oh, someone else is trapped in the room and the sun filter's going down. And he runs to the room and realizes it's Rose. He's like, oh, for fuck's sake, of course it's you.
Yeah.
He fights with the computer, with the Sonic, like trying to get the sunscreen to go back up, and he eventually wins. And the Doctor says, I can't open the door. Stay there, don't move. And she goes, where am I going to go? Ipswich. It was great. I mean, Ipswich is technically down there. What used
Yeah,
to
it's
be.
true. They put it back in the right place, so.
Yeah. The Doctor uses one of the little spider droids to figure out who the master is. It goes to the adherence of the repeated meme, and the Doctor points out a meme is just an idea, breaks the android's arm off, and then sends the spider back to where it's supposed to go, which is
Cassandra.
the Lady Cassandra. She was going to create a fake hostage situation where the company that owns Platform 1 would then have to pay out, and she would obviously get all the cash. Then her second option was, and another load of cash, is that she'd bought shares in the rival companies of all the people that were in the room. So when they die, the stock shares will plummet to them and their rivals will go up. So it's all about the cash.
Yeah.
Cassandra
There's a
teleports
bit
off.
when the,
Sorry, go.
well, there's a bit right before that when the Doctor gets threatened by Cassandra's assistants, and he goes, "We're gonna do moisturize me."
Is it that camp of a delivery, Tim?
It is that kind of delivery.
Beautiful.
Hands and everything.
The Doctor and Jay realize. Oh, sorry. Cassandra teleports away. The Doctor and Jay realize they need to reset the platform computer manually, which the switch is obviously at the end of those big retro fans.
Yeah.
There's another switch that has to be held down, and it slows the fans down. But obviously, with the heat shields dropping and the fans off, it gets really warm in there. And Jabe is made of wood.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a bit of a problem.
Yeah, the fans are still pretty fast, and the Doctor steps through. But at the last one, Jabe catches fire and obviously lets go of the switch, and it goes to full speed. And I love this shot.
Yeah.
So the Doctor's like tentatively trying to step forward. He's like trying to go quickly, and then he just steps like an inch towards it, like his nose is basically just before it, and he breathes deeply and takes one quite slow but determined step forward and goes through the blades. I like that. He's shot really beautifully. I think it's one of all the effects in this episode of like the Earth getting roasted and the shields and everything else. That might be my favorite effect.
I think it's also like just very like he's a time lord, like he knows how time works, and like he can like manipulate time if he really focuses to like suit him.
So the Doctor doesn't really have physical superpowers that make him any better, apart from having an increased brain capacity and life that kind of allows him to collect knowledge. But he does have a few little like they're like senses, aren't they? Like he can sense the flow of time in a different way and stuff. And I think you're right. That's probably like maybe the first insinuation that he's using. Although he did say it was in our little monologue competition in the last episode. He kind of
he can feel the planet spinning and everything.
Yeah. The Doctor races and hits the switch for the reset just in time, saves everyone except Jabe, who has now died, making her the first person, and this becomes a recurring theme, to sacrifice themselves so the Doctor can complete the mission to save everyone else.
But Bobby, you're wrong. Someone else died on that ship. The Moxie Balhoun. He burnt to a crisp.
Oh yeah, but he didn't sacrifice himself to help, did he?
Yeah, but it hurts more, okay?
Because he's your hero, because you like sharing bodily fluids.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so she becomes the first actual person to sacrifice herself in order for the greater good.
I was gonna say it becomes a worrying, like it's a worrying trend that happens in the show.
Yeah, well, I think they often try to play it down by the Doctor trying to sacrifice himself first, and then someone else being like, "No, you saved too many people, and you can keep saving more people. I'm going to sacrifice myself. I'm not intrinsic as you."
Like, no, my life has less value than yours.
Well, strictly speaking, he saved millions of people, billions. So possibly, yeah. The Doctor finds the teleportation feed because he says to teleport through the heat that's being let out by that exploding sun, you're going to need an extra relay. Finds it
Yeah.
and reverses it. And Cassandra says, "Oh, it was all a test, and you can now join the human club." Cassandra realizes that her boys aren't there, and she's starting to creak. As you said, she needs to be moisturized because she's just skin on a trampoline. She's like, "If I don't moisturize, I'll die." She's creaking, and Rose wants the doctor to help her, and he just stares and says,
Yeah.
everything has its time. Everything dies. Fuck, it's cold as fuck."
Yeah.
And then Cassandra explodes, essentially at her own hand, for multiple reasons.
Did you catch what Cassandra's final words were?
What was it?
I'm too young.
Oh yeah, and she's like 2,000 years old. She's older than the doctor.
Yeah.
Rose laments that no one saw the Earth die because they were all too busy saving themselves. So the doctor's like, "Well, for us with a time machine, it didn't really die." He takes her back to 2005. Back on Earth, the doctor explains that his people were lost in a war. We still don't know that it was the Time War. We don't know it was against the Daleks, but he does say that he's the last of the Time Lords, and he offers Rose the chance to go home and avoid any more danger. And she just says, "I want chips." And Tim, I respect it.
Yeah.
She makes a joke about the last line of this episode is I think this is a little flirty because of the way she delivers it, and then she smiles. She says, "Let's go get chips. We've already got 5 billion years until the shops close." And that is the end of the world. That is our little rundown of the episode.
Everything ends. And it's always sad. But everything begins again too. And that's always happy.
Right, let's do it. Let's talk about our favourite moments, Tim. Let's talk about the best and worst of this episode. Anything you liked, anything you hated.
Like what I liked, I think, well, the interplay between Rose and the Doctor, I think it's just so solid. I think you already established that immediate connection with them, and like also like there's bits of contention with the fact that like he's withholding information, and obviously like she's like going, "I just traveled with a stranger I know nothing about." I think that it's like things like that. It's very three-dimensional.
Yeah, I really like this.
It's not just like, we're friends and that's all that matters. It's like, no, there's like more layers to that.
Yeah, I love that it's, in terms of storytelling, it's actually quite straightforward. There's no big battle, there's no guns, there's no fighting. It's just a woman trying to commit fraud, but in the process killing everyone, and the Doctor stops it.
Yeah, and I think I just think it's a really solid episode. It was something I found like no faults with, to be honest.
I think it's refreshingly straightforward, is what it is. I think it's, considering what's to come, I think you need these episodes for pacing and stuff.
Yeah.
I liked the Moxa Balhoun. He is definitely a highlight. My favourite quote, I think, is the Jiggery Pokery quote. I know I failed Hullabaloo. It's just so silly. And like you said, it really highlights their kind of friendship building. I don't think the dialogue is as witty on a constant basis as in Rose. I think because we're dealing with Rose kind of coming to terms with, mortality and the end of the Earth and all that stuff, and kind of getting on board with the idea of time travel and space travel. And we get a bit more of her kind of mentally adjusting to that, as opposed to just a back and forth and a bit of wit and humour.
I think that's what I like about it the most, because it doesn't feel like a syndicated like show in that sense. It feels very like natural progression kind of thing.
Yeah. I like, one of the things I really liked as well is the Doctor, although I said it was Rose who kind of de-escalated the argument, the Doctor immediately gets giddy when she basically asks for help. It's like, "Oh, my phone," and he's like, "Oh yeah." There's also something quite quintessentially Doctor Who about the idea of, it looks like the bad guy's gotten away. The Doctor stopped everyone dying, but now, so something simple. There's There's a teleport relay. Give it here, reverse it. There's something so
Yeah.
Doctor Who about that, and I love that.
That's who I am. The Time Lord Victorious.
Before I go, I just want to tell you, you were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And you know what? So was I.
What do you think, Tim? Time Lord Victorious or Time Lord Fantastic? Was he a bastard? Did he do the right thing? Somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, I would say somewhere in the middle. Simply because, like, he obviously wanted to try and save everyone, but then in that moment where he could save Cassandra, he, as you said, stone cold just looks at her and like goes, "No," and that's a very bastard thing to do. Like, I'm not saying that Cassandra didn't deserve it, but even with his like worst enemies, he was trying to save them until the very end. But this is the one time he decides not to. It's a great character moment, though.
Oh, yeah.
I will not dispute that. It's a great character moment, but it is a bastard moment as well.
The light and the dark of the Doctor is what makes the Doctor. And I think we see the light in the first episode because he's really trying not to use that anti-plastic, and it's Rose who accidentally kicks it in. And this time he's like, "No, you are like." I think it's also to do with what the bad guy's doing. So, in a roundabout way, the Nestine consciousness was just trying to save its own kind.
Yeah.
Like it was just trying to continue its thing, whereas Cassandra was doing it for cash.
Yeah.
And we'll learn a bit more about Cassandra in a minute. I've got some notes about other aspects of her life. I think it does. I think it falls on the side of fantastic, but not all the way. I think if you've got like a speedometer from like victorious to fantastic, it's like 75% of the way to fantastic.
Yeah.
What effects did this have on the Whoniverse, Tim?
Well, introduce psychic paper
Yes, great addition.
and universal temporal mobile phone signals.
Yeah, that's a big one, and that goes on to basically be used by all of the RTD companions.
Yeah.
We get the introduction of the face of Bo. Not that we knew what that mean coming up.
Yeah, we won't really know much about that until season
3.
Well, we see him again in season 2, but in season 3 is the big reveal.
We know Cassandra manages to come back later. We'll talk about that in due time.
Yes.
We get a sort of rough date of when the Earth dies in the Whoniverse, 5 billion years. I think that's an important tidbit for world building.
Yeah.
We also get a bit more clarity on the Time War. We know that the Doctor is the last of the Time Lords now, and that other advanced races kind of knew the war was going on. We also get the first hint of the Bad Wolf, which, well, I think we should play that out over our series as well. Bad Wolf is a story arc for this season, and we'll just talk about more of it as it goes on.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do. Don't want to ruin it.
Do you know, in 900 years of time and space, I've never met anyone who wasn't important before.
Nobody important. There's a few options here for the first time.
Yes.
So nobody important is our who is your favourite tertiary character? Who, overall doesn't seem important. You've got Jabe, you've got the Mox of Balhoun, you've got Ruffalo.
Would you count Jabe as a tertiary? I would count her as a secondary.
I suppose she is a secondary, yeah.
Because she, like, well, if it wasn't for her, the Doctor probably wouldn't have saved everyone.
No, but yeah, well, that's a very good point. But the Mox, well, yeah. I consider secondary characters repeated still, but not the main two. So Jackie, Mickey, they're secondary in my eyes, and then one-off characters I would consider tertiary in general.
I think I would think it for me. Secondary and tertiary also depends on like their relevance and like how much to the episode. Because like in this episode, Jackie's a tertiary character because she's just there for like 30 seconds.
I'm talking to the overall series. What
Overall
are they
series,
to the
then,
overall
yeah.
series? Then Jabe is definitely tertiary. Maybe we'll use a different word going forward. What is
Yeah.
What is your favorite? Who is your favorite non-recurring character?
Well, I guess for this episode it would be Jabe, but I would also, just because I think the design is so unique, and also he was featured in a lot of like merch. I remember Mox Balhoun.
Yeah,
I
I
remember
love the
he was
box.
featured in he was featured in a lot of merch.
He's genuinely loved because he just spits at Rose once.
Yeah,
So when he greets her and he does the bodily fluid share, he spits right in Rose's face, and everyone thinks it's really funny. And even the Doctor laughs about it, doesn't he?
yeah,
Ruffalo, I like that they're a reflection of the working class. And then you've got like the steward. I'm like, I don't care about the steward.
yeah.
I don't know. I'd have trouble picking in this episode a bit more. Jabe obviously means more to the story, but I like the inclusion of Ruffalo. I actually think the story, despite her being a very minor character, loses just a little something without her, and I don't think it's
Yeah,
appreciated.
I think having that moment of almost levity for Rose, where she's encountered an alien that is almost quote unquote normal, that she can have a conversation with.
Just an everyday kind of person.
Yeah, I think that it almost like makes it like easier for her to like realize that, oh, this is real kind of thing, and there still are ordinary people in this world.
Yeah, agreed.
Tell me the whole plan!
One day that'll work.
Timothy, tell me your plan. What did you think of the villain's plan?
I gave it a solid 9 out of 10, to be honest.
So, break down for me how you pulled that together.
Because the Doctor literally had 3 seconds to stop it. He was literally like 3 seconds away from killing everyone.
I agree. Execution, high. Agree.
Yeah.
The
If you're on about motivation, it's
Yeah.
very weak. I mean, actually, not in the grand scheme for every other Doctor Who villain, it's weak. But the fact that it's very just so straightforward, like not about world domination, not about anything, it's just about money. It's something just like so refreshing in the sense of like, because even though the Doctor's like, 5 billion years in the future is still down to money. It's like, oh, that's actually kind of hilarious in a weird way.
I agree that it's a different. They should always have different motivations, but
Yeah.
I think she lacks ambition. So I went with 7 out of 10.
That's fair.
I think one thing she did do was the adherence of the repeated meme was such an obvious decoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I mean, no one
'cause,
else
like,
noticed it.
yeah,
The
but
way,
did
the
you
way I look at it is, if the Doctor wasn't there, how obvious would it have been? And no one else seemed to have noticed it. It was only the Doctor who was like, "No, this is clearly a fake."
See, I was looking at it from. I remember watching this. It was 2007 or so, and I was, I think I was 19, and I clocked that Cassandra was definitely the bad guy straight away. Had I clocked necessarily that the adherents were her lackeys? No, I thought they were more of a distraction, so you're meant to think it's them, but it's obviously Cassandra.
Yeah, it's obviously the vain skinned woman.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why she lost a few points for me.
That's fair. I just think like her being the reveal, like, yeah, it was obvious, but I don't think that took away from the plan. Literally, almost getting pulled off.
Right then, I'll be off. Unless, I don't know, you could come with me. He's not invited.
What happens to the people left behind, Tim? So there's nothing on any of the other characters. So this is unusual in the massively expanded world of Doctor Who, comic books, audio adventures, novels. There is nothing on any of the characters. There isn't, a Christmas special 3-page comic that features Ruffalo as a kid. There isn't,
I mean, the only one technically, well, only two technically, Face of Bo and Cassandra, but that's because they appear in episodes again.
Yeah, so I'm going to take this moment. I'm Face of Bo. They're not left behind. What I'm going to talk about is Cassandra's backstory.
Nice.
Just a quick one. Cassandra, born Brian Edward Cobbs, started work at a company, signed up as Mr. B.E. Hobbs. Very soon after, became Ms. B.E. Hobbs and married the billionaire boss of that company, who 6 months later mysteriously died by standing 5 times on their own garden rake. She inherited all the cash. She changed her name to Kitty Gillespie and murdered someone on a lawless border world called Rit. 20 years later, she would rock up on a place called Sant World. This is where she started becoming an actress, which is something we kind of get a hint of over the 2 episodes she does appear in. This is where she changes her name to Cassandra for the first time, but she was Cassandra Hoots here. She married the studio boss, who was called Ivan Canbone, who dies when a piano falls on him. She becomes the head.
All these accidents.
Yeah, she becomes the head of this film studio after that. For some reason, the Cassandra resurfaces as Brian for a while and stars in a biopic that gets panned terribly by critics. Later on, 15 critics are found dead, as well as 2 surgeons. Another husband gets killed in a gliding accident. So all this stuff is from a book that they did about Cassandra called The Lives of the Rich and Thin.
That's amazing.
And the title obviously is a play on RTD's vision for Cassandra, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
What is this? Who is he?
An Easter egg.
Easter eggs. Did you see any Easter eggs, Tim?
I mean, not really. I can't really find many.
Strictly speaking, I think there's only one, which is the Mox saying "Bad Wolf."
Yeah, like
That's it.
I mean, that's it. So apart from like that, there was literally nothing I could find.
I must have watched this episode 30 times total, and I did a lot of research for this episode. I couldn't find one fucking thing.
Yeah, I think for these like just initial episodes, they want it to be very reserved, so it doesn't feel intimidating to newcomers.
Yeah, so there was one planned Easter egg that they didn't put in. So animating Cassandra was harder than they thought.
Yeah,
and then there was also this. Though this visual effects budget was the most they spent on any episode in this season, because you see the Earth getting roasted. You've got the spaceship and everything else.
You're about to pull my trivia point. I can already tell you're about to take my trivia point.
Go on, you can take it. Go on. It was a planned Easter egg. So
yeah. So this is meant to take place around the same time as the first Doctor story, The Ark, which began in the Steel Sky, and so the script contained a reference to that story by mentioning remnants of humanity escaping the doomed Earth aboard massive space arcs. That you would actually see those space arcs, but because animating Cassandra was so difficult, they had to cut that entirely.
What's funny is, I think if they did it now, animating a few space arcs flying away from Earth would take like a day. With like modern tech and stuff. It just
you could probably just find like a free version on like Blender or something, like a default one.
Well, they've probably got a range of spaceships now as well, like just in their pocket, and they could pull out one from another episode. The other thing is, I watched the Confidential, and the computers they're working on look so like it's obviously you should think about it, but it's obviously the old square monitors and it's so funny.
There have always been rumours, stories passed from traveller to traveller, mutterings on hidden streets.
Rumours about this episode. So we're still quite early on. Rumours will become a bigger and bigger thing as we kind of go on, especially as fans insist that every female that appears is the Rani. But there's only
Mrs. Flood is the Rani.
There's only one persistent rumour about this one, and they think that it's meant to be a joke that when Rose first leaves the TARDIS on her first adventure, everyone says she's looking straight at a vent. It's not the vent, it's just the shutter for the window for that room.
Yeah.
That's it. But apparently, it's like was on all the message boards and stuff. You're like, oh, what a good. That's a little joke. That first thing she sees is just an air conditioning vent. But they're wrong.
You tell me.
Spoilers.
Spoilers, Timothy. Anything that could spoil the future? Any hints at the future? We obviously hear the nod to the bad wolf.
I mean, that's basically it at that point, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the end of the Earth. I think it gets mentioned more than once as we go through.
Yeah,
That's ongoing.
also Platform 1 being owned by mysterious people.
Yes. The other thing I think is that jukebox looks very fucking familiar. And I think 6 incarnations later, we realised that the Doctor stole it on his way out.
Yeah, someone, other people have made that joke on Twitter. I think I've seen that people go, "Oh, yeah, he stole it from Cassandra."
I mean, she wasn't using it anymore, was she?
Yeah, that's true.
Got some trivia points. You already made one. I put that in Easter eggs because it was a potential Easter egg, but it could fit here too. The majority of the CGI budget was spent here, and it was the most expensive CGI episode until the wedding of River Song.
Yes, I actually have a follow-up point to yours.
Oh, go on
Actually,
then.
it was intentionally conceived as the most expensive episode because they wanted to show off how much the new series could do.
As opposed to the one 16 years before, yeah.
Yeah.
RTD says he based Cassandra on Hollywood actresses. He says he thinks it's horrific seeing what beautiful women reduced to. This is his exact quote. What beautiful women reduced to sticks. Nicole Kidman struck me in particular. Nicole is one of the most beautiful women in the world, but she looks horrifying because she's so thin. It's like we're killing these women in public. We watch while you die, which is quite on the nose for him to say, but you know.
Yeah, it's like, poor Nicole Kidman being like singled out.
Yeah, I mean, he said this back in 2005, I think, and we are living in a different space, which is a good thing. But I mean, knowing Russell, he would be probably quite open about his inspiration if that was his inspiration. He might have worded it differently.
Yeah, I think it's just a poor point to go. Specifically, Nicole Kidman. Look how thin she is.
Yeah, bless Nicole.
I have another point.
Go for it.
So, according to a March 2016 interview with RTD, he originally requested for this episode to be broadcasted back to back with Rose, but because he did it too close to transmission, they couldn't fulfill that request. However, in the United States, the Sci-Fi Channel ran the 2 episodes consecutively on the 17th of March 2006.
So they got this before us? Because this is from the 2nd of April.
Yeah,
2006, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's good. They didn't get Doctor Who till the year later. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and they got it how he originally intended back to back, which I think actually does work in the sense where you see how Rose ends and how End of the World immediately picks up. There's like no dead space in between.
Yeah, I almost certainly watched these back to back when I watched them. So, yeah.
Yeah.
The Doctor says a little minor swear word for the first time. He says hell. Which to us is nothing, but to Americans is like a minor swear.
Yeah.
Also, the first time, and it never happened in the classic series, didn't happen in the movie, first time the Doctor cries on screen. So when he's talking about the Time War, just one single tear rolls down his cheek. Quite classily done, I think.
Quite woke.
Yeah, you wait till you see the 15th Doctor.
Every episode.
There was a lack of short actors because all the kids who play the staff who help the steward, they were meant to originally be played by short actors, but they were all working on the Goblet of Fire.
God damn it.
At a talk in 2018, Euros Lynn said the final scene of this episode where Rose and the Doctor go get chips is one of his favourite he's ever done and one of his favourite he's ever directed. It was one of the final scenes that was shot for the series, and the people behind the Doctor and Rose were just the public. Like, it wasn't cordoned off as paid extras or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah. He says it's one of his favourite scenes.
I mean, that's kind of impressive considering like Billie Piper was popular at the time.
I think she'd kind of waned a little bit over the last few years, though. And then,
That's fair.
yeah, I mean, we had talked about it last episode. Doesn't her biggest hit only had like 7 million plays or something? Which,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and that's like now. So like back then, it probably been way less.
the psychic paper debuts here, as you said, but previous incarnations have used it. The second, the eighth, and the War Doctors have all used it in content that was produced after this point.
Yeah.
The face of Bo was influenced by some rubbish 80s movie called Dune. I don't know if you've heard of it. Was it the Guild Navigators?
Yes.
Yeah. Jay was supposed to be even more tree-like. We nearly got Groot, essentially. And they decided to tone it down. The Doctor Who Confidential that is attached to this is hardly about the fucking episode. So it's about like aliens in general, and they like the middle section of it. So you get the first 5 minutes, and then like, the last 5 minutes of a half-hour episode about this. Then the middle 20 is just about classic era Doctor Who bad guys. They've got interviews with classic doctors, but I think they're just pulled from another show.
Yeah.
We're all capable of the most incredible change. We can evolve while still staying true to who we are.
What would you change, if anything, about this episode, Timothy?
I actually wrote like not really much. I think you kind of allude to it with the whole arc thing. I was just wondering like re-release with just updated CGI.
Yeah, do a George Lucas.
Really
Add them in.
I think that's the only thing that's really holding it back, like this CGI, because like 2005 TV budget looks quite ropey. I think with like the CGI budget that Doctor Who has now, I think if they updated that, it would just look spectacular.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, imagine Disney paying for a set of remasters.
It'd be amazing, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know if Russell had thought about what the face of Bo was going to go on to mean at this point. There's a part of me that wants him more highlighted, and there's another part of me that likes that he's a subtle background character for the moment.
Yeah, I do like that he's a subtle background character, and then in the next season, he's like, you see him again, it's like, oh, okay, now we're leading to more with it.
One thing that I do want, as well as those ships, is one of the points I would like to have seen the arcs. Ruffalo, I just would have liked a little bit more.
Yeah,
like still have her die, but have her die towards the end of the episode.
Yeah,
maybe doing something heroic.
Even if I change, it feels like dying. Everything I am dies. Some new man goes sauntering away.
Tim, is there any other Doctor you would have liked to have seen in there? Or so the way I've kind of started doing this is I've thought about 3 different Doctors and what they would be like in this situation.
I would love to see 15 interact with Cassandra.
I've put 15 as well. Like, imagine when Cassandra puts Toxic on.
Yeah.
15's going to have a fucking whale of a time.
I just think it'll just be so catty between those two.
Yeah, and then just like when Toxic comes on, seeing him dance across the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, yeah. So, yeah, you got to think Rose's bitchy fight with Cassandra would have been replaced with 15. If the episode, for sure. I think I like the idea of 10 being in this, because 10 likes a bit of a soiree. We see it in the Girl in the Fireplace. We see it in the what's it called? The episode where they go to Pete's World, the first time.
Wait, Pete's what? Oh, no, is it Age of Steel?
Yes, Age of Steel. Yes, you're good at pulling those names for episodes out of your head. But we see that 10 quite likes a little posh soiree, and he kind of blends in and has a bit of a laugh, and so I see that. And the only Doctor I think they would never be able to pull this off is 11. Just too.
Oh god, yeah.
Too childlike, too silly. Would have stuck out like a sore thumb at this place. I don't think
would love to see 12 interact with people here as well. Like season 8, 12, where he's just like a massive dick.
Yeah, I can't often think about 12 in the position of the 9th Doctor, because they're quite similar.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
I feel like 12 is, in a way, is 9 dialed up from 8 to 10. Like, it's just a bit more because he's by that point knows that he didn't kill his entire race. He's now confident in being a dick, whereas 9 kind of seems to go, I'm a dick. No, wait, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, 11 for me. Just the subtleness of this episode wouldn't work with him.
No.
Donnie, I'm here for fun.
So, queer reading, Timothy. There's a couple of, there's one point in this at least.
I mean, there's the obvious one, Cassandra being trans.
Yes. The first trans character we get of the modern era of Doctor Who is in the second episode.
Yeah.
Funny that, isn't it? You know, all the people complaining that Doctor Who is never there. But the first showrunner is a gay man, and he put a trans character in the second episode.
Yeah.
I mean,
although I would argue that it was almost played for like a joke, because like her going, when I was a little boy, and Rose's face goes, what?
But yeah, I think the book expands on the idea more. I think if it hadn't come from another person from the LGBTQIA plus community, it may have felt more of a joke. But because Russell is gay, I feel like it isn't just purely said for the lull.
Yeah, yeah.
So Timothy, little monologue challenge for you. We're gonna do this every episode, I think, unless people tell us to stop. I didn't realise
this was the one you wanted to do.
What did you think we wanted to do? What did you?
I thought we were gonna do the Doctor's one at the end of the episodes.
Nah, I think this one's funnier for one thing, and two, let's not always do the Doctor.
That's fair.
Yeah, this is Rose, and this is her full rant at Cassandra earlier in the episode. And I went first last time, Tim, so it's your turn.
Okay.
Hope you haven't had the same idea.
I'm worried that we have. I was born on that planet, and so was my mom, and so was my dad. That's right. Oh shit!
This ain't my idea. I don't know what you're doing.
I'm trying to do Valet Girl. Go get more nasally with it. So I'm recovering from a cold as well. So that's not the.
You live in East London. I'm really surprised you haven't gone for a Rose London accent.
Because I don't want to give the Essex people that phrase. You know? I can't. I don't. No. All right. Let me try again. Even if it's shit, I'm gonna keep going. I was born on that planet. Okay. So was my mom. And so was my dad. And that makes me the last human being in this room. Because you're not human. You've had it all nipped and tucked and flattened until there's nothing left. Anything human got chucked in the bin. You're just skin, Cassandra, okay? Lipstick and skin.
That was Campus Christmas, and I appreciated it. What's that from?
Right,
you just do like a Valley Girl.
It's kind of like Valley Girl, but I think it got more inspired by like it was like a Kristen Wiig voice. Oh, have you seen the Californian sketch?
I haven't. No, feels a bit Mean Girls, like a bit.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. But like, it's I recommend looking up SNL the Californians because they all talk like that.
Okay, I'll have a look. So, do you recall what Rose called Cassandra?
Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Oh, good God, no.
I was born on that planet, yeah. And so was my mom, and so was my dad. And that makes me officially the last human being in this room. Because you're not human. You've had it all nipped and tucked and flattened till there's nothing left. Anything human got chucked in the bin. You're just skin, Cassandra. And lipstick and skin. That's ignorant.
I appreciate you doing that's ignorant. You sounded more like Towley than
Oh, that's
Michael
fine.
Jackson.
We'll call it Towley
then. As usual, there'll be a poll up where you can vote for who did the best voice. But Bobby, overall, what was your rating for this episode?
I gave this 8 out of 10. It's respectable. I don't think it's as good as Rose. I don't think it adds as much to the lore, but it's a very good episode.
I gave it a 9 actually.
Nice.
When I was watching it, I was just like struggling to think of anything like that really dragged this episode down. I think it's a really solid, like almost like a second part to the first episode, where it's just fleshing out many of the character dynamics between Rose and the Doctor, which is, I think, right now at this point in the series, the most important thing to get down. The story, while not being grand in like scale, I think it being like about the end of the world does make it a bit more like, it makes it more personal in the sense that like it's still based on Earth, but obviously also set in space. The tertiary characters are just like so visually distinct and unique, and I just like how Cassandra's whole plan's just being so petty.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a very good episode. It's just not as monumental, and I don't think, for me, it's not as entertaining as Rose. It's the pattern between Rose and the Doctor doesn't hit as hard.
Yeah.
But it's still very good. There still builds on the world, builds on their relationship, builds on the lore of the Doctor himself. And it's a very good episode. It's not by any means a slant on it. I mean, 8 out of 10 is still a fantastic score.
Yeah, exactly.
Timothy, next time we are doing The Unquiet Dead.
Ooh.
We're off to the land of my forefathers. Going to, well, I'm not from Cardiff, but my family aren't from Cardiff, but we are Welsh. We're off to Cardiff to meet Charles Dickens. Yeah, that'll be fun. So that'll be in a couple of weeks. We'll jump on that one. In the pipeline still, in a few weeks' time, maybe 4 weeks' time, we've got a main line episode coming out. Tim, you want to talk about it a little?
Yes, as mentioned in the last 2 Timey Wimey episodes, we are doing Primeval. It was a show ran by ITV at around about the same time as Doctor Who was airing. It's nice time travel goodness, but instead of going to the past comes to us. But only going to be covering the first 2 seasons, as I think those are the most solid of the entire show. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about the show because it's this one where I bring it up to people and they go, was that a thing? And I just want to try and get a show like just more publicity.
I was aware of it, but only because when I worked in the media outlet shop, as we'll call it, we sold the box set. I didn't know anything about it. I never even the box set. I looked at it, never intrigued me to go find out what it was. But as we're doing this in a different format, I have been currently watching it. I won't say anything about it yet, but I'm working my way through it. I've watched up to episode 1 of series 2.
Nice.
So we're getting there.
Yeah, there's only 6 episodes per season, so
yeah, I think there's 7 in series 2, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah. You can follow us on socials at CC Society Pod or search Cult Classic Society. You'll find us there. I have been using the X a bit more, interacting with some Doctor Who fans. Good times. Not really been using the Instagram much, but the Doctor Who community seems quite rife on X, so I was just going to hang around there for a bit, Tim.
Yeah, and if you want to follow our individual socials, you can find me at the Tim Martini on everything. I should start using my TikTok more. On my Instagram, I just post dumb things on there.
You can follow me at bdavies_creative. Best place for that is Instagram. I don't post much on the X for that one. I post a lot about wrestling, which I do a lot of work in. And yeah, that's about it. We will see you next time in a couple of weeks.
See you guys next time.
I will say goodbye and wish you good luck with the sharing of bodily fluids.
Timey, wimey, rewind, blast off. Bobby, Tim, they never cough. Zoom through space, hear the call. Dive into it all.